Hello and welcome to JRock's Babylon. I am your host, Jason JRock Houston, and our guest today is Red Rain drummer Sammy Lee Bendhiem. Am I pronouncing that right, Sammy?
Yep, just Sammy Lee Bendhiem. Yep.
Bendhiem. Okay. I've interviewed you before, and today we're talking because you've got a new live album out. Is it a full length or is it an EP?
It's an EP that we
Okay.
recorded live while we were supporting LA Guns.
Oh wow. So what was it like to tour with those guys?
Fantastic. Man, they were so receptive. The tour went very well. The crowds were receptive of us very well. So yeah, couldn't have gone any better.
Let me ask you, because I want to ask you first of all, speaking of Tracy Guns, he was recently inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame in LA, and I know you guys played that event. So you want to all talk about attending the event and what it was like for you getting to perform there?
Let me kind of talk about that. We didn't play the Metal Hall of Fame. We played Metal Allegiance, the show the night after. We were invited as special guests at the Metal Hall of Fame, so we were there.
Okay, yeah. But I did see pictures of you guys there. So what was that like, though? That must have been pretty cool.
Wow, it was boy, it's funny. It's unbelievable, from where you start and where you finish. But we were lucky enough. We were invited as special guest of the Metal Hall of Fame, and we were they asked us to walk the red carpet, which is surreal,
Yeah.
And we got to see, I didn't get to see Tracy personally, but a couple of my bandmates did. So, it was nice.
And let me ask you, because that's one event that gets really bigger and bigger every year. And I think, if you're a metal fan, I think they finally got it right. You know what I mean? Because for years, I don't think the Grammys ever really got it right. I mean, first metal award goes to Jethro Tull. That's
that's correct.
but Metal Hall of Fame, they seem to get it right. This year they honored the the Sunset Strip era of these hard rock bands that we grew up on. So my question: do you happen to know, Sammy, how Red Rain came on the Hall of Fame's radar as far as inviting you guys?
So I don't know specifically how we were on their radar, but I do know that we had nailed down the Metal Allegiance show before that.
Okay.
And so we were going to be out there anyway. But hey, I'm the drummer of the band. I let the management or our PR firm, or I let all them do their job.
And again, I asked that because that's great you say that and you let them do their job. But I asked that specifically because again, I've interviewed you a couple times before. Red Rain seems to be kind of one of these bands. You're kind of on the rise, as they see each year. More and more people kind of and I think when you start getting invited to events, that's pretty good sign that your band is at least becoming more known than probably what you think it is.
Yeah, I hope so, at least. I think that would be great if that's the case. But I mean, and yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, we've been lucky enough. The more tours and more shows we play, we've been able to make new friends while we're out there, and it seems to be helping. You're right. Every event, every show is a stepping stone. So we got a lot more to go, though.
That's a great way to put it, stepping stone. And let me ask, whose great idea was it put out a live EP? Because when I was growing up, a lot of my favorite bands, you think about Kiss Alive or even Cheap Trick Live at Budokan. Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive. That's turning 50 this year. A lot of classic live albums. Not a lot of bands do that anymore. So why did you guys decide to do it? Because I was listening to some of the stuff off the new EP, and I got to say, it sounds like some of these classic albums in the sense that I get this raw energy when I listen to some of these live tracks on your EP, and it's like I feel like I was there,
Right. Yeah. And thank you for saying that, because that's really what we were trying to achieve. I believe it was. Well, I don't believe. I actually know it was more. It was more of David Ivory, who produces the band.
Okay.
It was more of his idea. Up where we played, where we recorded the Ardmore, David lives really not too far. So when we had given, because we still talk to David, constantly. And when we booked the LA Guns tour, I gave him to David, and he's like, well, I'll be at that show. And then all of a sudden, we were going back and forth, and he said, hey, let's see if we can just capture. I can record this live. Let's see what we can get. Maybe we get something we can bottle, or maybe we don't. And luckily enough, we got something that we were able to bottle pretty damn well. And it couldn't have come out any better.
And here's a question: when you were performing that night, I'm talking about the show where this was taken from. I guess it was Ardmore Music Hall. Did you guys know you were recording for a live album? Were you just doing another show, and it just kind of after the fact you found out?
No. The band knew we recorded live. But the great thing is when you're supporting acts, you get a certain amount of time, right?
Sure.
And we've been doing this for a while, and so we have set lists that over the last years that we pull from.
Makes sense.
And we rehearse enough to know. And so the good news is we know the set. So nobody was nervous about recording live, because listen, if we didn't capture everything correctly, because there were some I think there was like another song or two we didn't use. We picked the songs that came out good, but the whole show went really well, but we picked the songs that really, I think, represent the band very well.
Yeah, because the reason I asked you is it's kind of twofold. Is number one, like if you did know ahead of time that you're recording, you might have those extra nerves, like, oh, got to get every note just so. But then again, like you say, it's a live show. It's rock and roll, so it doesn't have to be perfection,
Well, true, and you know what? There was one. I think there was one instance. When I think about it, like I was like getting ready to try this one lick that I've never really, and I was like, no, I stopped myself before I could do it because I didn't want to ruin the take.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Like you said, is even if you do make a mistake, right? It's live, it's raw,
yeah.
And when you're recording an album, it's a little more proper. If you make a mistake, you go back and you fix it, or you're sort of in a bottle, you're sort of in a shell to make it sure that everything goes smooth, and that's not how it works live. Live is live, it's supposed to be maybe, a little sloppy. It's supposed to be a little, different, but
and
it's awesome.
And the other reason I was asking, because I gotta say, Sammy, what a great story. If you were to tell me, oh man, we had no idea we were doing this for a live album. We just were playing another show, but man, it came out so flawless. I'm like, wow. And that's further.
I try to, I understand. I wish I could say that, but I don't, but we listen. Everything still could have gone wrong.
Sure. And then you have to record another show. But at the same token, it also thinks it shows the power of you guys as a live band, but especially if anybody's not really followed you before, maybe you're just learning about the band for the first time. This would be a great way to introduce them, like to some of the older material, and say, oh, this, check this out, this live EP, and you'll get a taste of what this band does live, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and again, that's what we're trying to achieve. I when it first came out, I posted, like, if you ever wondered what we sounded like live, here's your shot. This is it, because what you hear on that EP, you hear, that's what you're going to hear when we're playing live.
Yeah, and I don't know if you experienced this with this live EP or not, but one of the things I always loved about Cheap Trick is I don't know if you ever heard the original studio version of I Want You to Want Me. It almost sounds like a swampy country song, and then you check out the live version on Budokan. It sounds like two different totally songs. I mean, they really kick that ass, give that ass some major ass kick in that song.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard the original, but
you wouldn't even know it was the same song. That's what's so funny. So I guess what I was going to ask you on that note is, any of these like live versions on this EP, like kind of really come out differently than what you thought, or like gave it an extra kick?
No, I know they can, and I think it would be hard for me to decipher that, because that was our fourth night we played on the same tour. So we really try to make an effort, and again, just for us, and we try to make an effort to make the show the best show that represents us, right?
Sure.
And so we're pretty, listen, everybody makes mistakes live and all that stuff, but we're meticulous. We're really hard on ourselves. Like we'll get off the stage and we'll load up and we're talking to people after the show, which is one of the best aspects of it, because you get some, and people are like, oh, that's great, it's great. Then you get in the car and said, somebody said we did a really good job here, but I know I screwed up all this, and so we're hard on ourselves, and we try to make sure that that it's a great sounding, follows the album, at least as far as everything goes. So that's pretty important to us.
Yeah, and being the drummer, I'm curious. Did you have to mic up the drums that night any differently since you were being recorded for this live EP, or pretty much?
So again, the answer, I think they had to. I don't believe they did, but that was all sound engineering, which that's a little bit above my pay grade. So I couldn't answer that question honestly for you.
The reason I asked is because I've heard Gene and Paul from Kiss talk over years about the fact, that they had to go back in the studio on Kiss Alive 1 and overdub a lot of stuff for the simple fact that when they went back and listened to the original tapes, the drums were like overpowering the vocals, and you couldn't hear the vocals. So I just wondered if you had to do anything special, being that this is a live recording. So that'd be kind of interesting. Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure David did something.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. I didn't ask, but
you're not the producer.
Everything that you heard was. I mean, because I heard, I heard it right after we did it. So really, I mean, if there was any changes, it was so minute that I couldn't tell.
It sounds kick-ass. That's all that matters. Now, as far as this place, Ardmore Music Hall, you want to tell us a little bit about that place and where you recorded it?
So it was a great venue, a little bit of a smaller venue, but that was great too, because those were you're really intimate with the audience, which is great. Unfortunately, there's not much to tell. It was we just went up there and did it, and then we got to tear down, and we got to watch LA Guns yet again, which is also exciting. So it was great.
Yeah, they've been around, like they had so many lineups, but that's one band I always thought was very underrated, in the sense that I think they should have been much bigger than what they are. But you gotta love the fact they're still out there doing what they do and pumping out new music.
It's funny. When I first got to meet and have a conversation with Tracy, I went back because I bought that album when it first came out, the first one, right?
Yeah, LA Guns, yeah.
And it was just such a great album or tape or CD.
Yeah. There you go.
But I just remember talking about it because when they would sound check, we would do our thing, and then when we had to break down our equipment and get it out, they were playing like two of my favorite songs. Mm-hmm. Sex Action and Electric Gypsy, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even get to watch that live because we're busy getting out there. So, he said, so then of course he says, we stop what you're doing and come in and watch it. I'm like, well, it's not that easy, unfortunately, but
yeah. And can you imagine a band that's been around that long, that many years? I don't know how many people realize that Tracy Guns is the Guns and Guns N' Roses, but
yes.
Can you imagine coming up with their set list? Like, okay, it's like probably their biggest problem's got to be is what do we throw out and what do we leave in?
Yeah, I mean but they put on a great show too. I mean, because we finally, after the first 4 songs, we finally get to come in and watch them a little bit, and it's just like every other band we've been able to be on the same stage with it. You kind of pinch yourself sometimes,
Well, I imagine so, and I would imagine too, like you said, to get to this level, like you're living the dream. I mean, okay, you're not selling out the LA Forum, but you know what? Your people are buying your albums. People are coming to see you play live. You're at the level where you're playing with a band like LA Guns, and I'm sure you've opened for other national acts, as you said. So if your band really wasn't any good, you wouldn't even be opening for these bands. So to get to a level where you're opening for these kind of national acts, you guys are, you really are kind of at the pinnacle of, the next stepping stone, as they say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, we've been fortunate to go out with a lot of those types of bands, and the list has grown. I mean, if you just said I'd have done 3 shows with any of those three
Yeah, yeah,
bands, that I'd have been happy. But the list, I think, is like 22, 25 long.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
And who knows? I mean, who knows what's next? But let me ask you, Sam. I'd like to get a little more personal, but and
Sure.
learn a little bit about who you are now. I've interviewed you a few times, but I was kind of curious. What was the point, or how old are you when you knew music was what you wanted to do specifically? You wanted to be a drummer, and how did you go about? How did the drums become your instrument of choice?
So 19 in the early 80s, I knew I wanted to do something in music. Early 80s.
Okay.
What changed it for me, and I always say this, people get Van Halen 1 changed it for me, because I mean, as we've spoken, I'm a
Yep.
big fan. But when I heard Van Halen 1, it changed my life. And I know that sounds funny, but it's when you're young and you hear something like that, it did for me. It gave me more confidence. It made me, I don't know. It was just like this explosion just went off. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is something that's great. And then I guess when MTV came out and I saw Van Halen, you
Yeah.
saw the video.
Oh, that's what they look like.
But the first thing is I thought, maybe I'll be a singer. That I think that's everybody's first thing. And
Yeah.
I can't sing. I can't sing a lick. But Alex always drew me in with all the 4 bass drums and or the fire on the gong.
Yeah, yeah.
Just yeah, I was like, okay, this is where I think
that Van Halen album, that was a thing. I mean, a lot of people were influenced by that one album, and it's very interesting because people forget, maybe who are younger than us, but back like in the 1970s, like we didn't have the internet, so you can just go to the band's website and check out their latest press photo. I mean, you'd have to wait maybe to see what they look like in Circus Magazine and Hit Parader back in the day, or even back then they didn't have MTV until 1981. So like if you're in a band like Van Halen, they don't even really put their picture on the front cover, So it's like, what do these guys look like? They sound kick ass, but I don't know what they look like maybe until I go see the band live,
Yeah, or if you bought the album, because at least they had the picture of the album.
Cover. Back cover.
But you didn't know what they did live, until you saw the video.
Yeah.
And then that was a whole other thing. What that band did live, again, to me, my opinion is, I mean, I've seen quite a few bands, and I mean, for me, that's it. But that's really what started it for me to be a drummer was to watch Alex.
I could see that because Alex is a very powerful drummer. He's one of my all-time favorite drummers myself. I got to ask, news floating around. What do you think about possibility of Alex Van Halen doing an album with Steve Lukather?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. I mean, he obviously has a reason. He knows what he's. As a fan.
Yeah.
But I trust he has a vision or something he wants to do, and it'll be one of those things where we'll wait and see what happens when it happens.
Yeah. And it's interesting too because you go to the Van Halen 1 album. Okay, a lot of people fell in love with Eddie because of Eruption.
Right.
That's just one track on there, of course. And I think I love the other tracks, but if you look at the fact that they covered "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks, okay, and that was a big hit for the Kinks, but Van Halen really put their stamp on that song to the point where a lot of people don't even know that's a Kinks song. They think of it as a Van Halen song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the Kinks themselves have said that, didn't they? I might be wrong. I thought Ray Davies had said, people don't remember we wrote that song.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Yeah, that's probably true. And so what was it like? Do you remember how old you were when you got your first drum kit?
Oh yeah. Well, so I started playing drums later in life. I didn't start at that earlier of an age. I started when I was in my teens.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Okay.
and and I got really two really good friends that I went to school with who were phenomenal drummers. And they helped influence me too, believe it or not. And so my first drum set I got, I was 14. So
Okay.
I
And were
took
you
lessons. I started to take lessons from a great teacher. Uh, but my problem is I don't have that great of an attention span when it comes to learning. So when it got down to the reading music portion, I was like, okay, and I kind of lost a little interest. Uh, and I wish I had, if I could go back in that part with the drums, I wish I had paid more attention to reading music, and I wish I had really learned the rudiments better than I know. But I get bored, and I have a different vision. So even though the teacher was great and he did nothing wrong, I veered off, and so a lot of this, like I didn't really learn to play double bass drums with a teacher. I just kind of taught myself because my teacher wasn't really into hard rock and I
sure,
was.
sure. Yeah.
So I remember he was a little more religious, which is fine. But I remember he said, okay, the next lesson, bring an album that you want to play to. But I brought AC/DC because it's just a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
time drumming.
yeah, yeah.
And it was like, well, we don't really play that in my house. I'm like, okay. So and he was such a wonderful man too. But I just said, okay, if I'm going to learn this, so I just went home and I put on my headphones and I just started keeping time to bands like that.
Well, again, being our age, what it is, when you were coming up and learning, they didn't have YouTube videos like they do now. Kids just go
Oh,
on YouTube and learn that way. But I got a lot of respect for you, the fact that you're a self-taught player, and you may not know this, being a Van Halen fan, maybe you do, but um, people are amazed to learn that Eddie Van Halen, as great as a guitar player as he was, he could not read a lick of music yet.
yep,
Look what
yep.
kind of career he had. So again, there's something to be said about being an innovator and kind of being creative and coming up with your own sounds. And I think again, you may not be what somebody considers a top tier, but I think you reached a point, Sammy, in your career where you're making records, you're playing live, you're playing playing shows with some of your favorite bands that you grew up on. So you've reached, I think, a certain level of success that you deserve to pat yourself on the back.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no way if you told me this 20 years ago, I'd be here. I'd be like, there's just no way because
Yeah.
you know, I'm a, um, yeah, I wish I was a better drummer than I was, to be honest with you.
Uh,
And I know that,
you can
I
always
know
get
the
better. Yeah.
well, yeah, and I strive to, and I tell you, I'm better than I was 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and so, but there's so much to learn that I really skipped that's the one thing I kick myself about. But
So
yes, you're right.
let me ask you, how involved are you with the songwriting? I know typically drummers don't get too involved with the songwriting. Some guys like Carmine and Peace are very involved with everything they do, producing and writing the songs. But I was curious, do you get real involved with the writing?
So that's a very easy question to answer. I have 0% of the songwriting. I
Okay.
am not a songwriter, so
Okay.
that is left up to our lead singer Bubba, who writes all the words of the song.
Okay.
That's him. And then generally he'll bring in a good idea, and then Larry and Stevie will. Then the three of them really more collaborate.
Okay.
And then they'll have a piece of a song, and then I mean, listen, they don't tell me what to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll say, "Here's this." And then as well as anything, because you're into music, you usually know how. I mean, we've all heard the stories where, oh, we were noodling around and we just came up with that song, and so that's part of it as well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I don't really have a lot to do with the songwriting process.
But like you said, I guess when you guys get in a room and record together, um, they don't really tell you like how to play your drum parts, or do they? Does the person who wrote the song kind of have it specifically in mind how the drum should be played, or?
No, but sometimes Bubba will say, "Hey, this is the feel I think,"
Yeah.
or maybe Stevie or Larry's like, hey, try this, but really what happens is we put the ideas down and basically write the song the way we see it. And then that's when it goes to David, who's our producer. And then he's like, okay, the parts A and B are good. C stinks. We're taking C out. We're going to do this. So yeah, I mean, it's a process. I don't complain too much about the process because I don't sound as smart as I would like to think I was when it comes to the.
Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that most times when a band goes in to start recording a new album, typically it's the drums that get recorded first. Is that correct?
That is correct. At least in our process, that is correct.
Yeah. Okay. And so what's that like for you to kind of get to get your drum beats down, and I guess that then everything else kind of centers around what you put down, huh?
Well, so it's good because the band's still playing. I'm still playing with the band. They're just not recording.
Yeah.
But the first EP we did, it was a little nerve wracking. But once we've worked with David, quite a few times, and David's so easy to work with, and we've become really close with David, and so recording "Don't Look Back" was an easier process for me because my nerves, were lowered, and I'd been through the process before with David, so it's good. Again, every time I hear a song, so like when I'm listening to a song we recorded, I think, oh my God, man, I nailed it, right? And then the album or that song comes out, we released everything, and then I'm in the car and I'm going, you know what, man, I should have done that.
Yeah.
So I think next time we record, David usually gives me about 3 tracks. Even if, not that this happens often, but even if I nail it on the first track, he'll make me do another track, right?
Okay, yeah.
I think what I'm going to do next time is, okay, I'll give you the first tracks, give me the third. Just let me do whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know. That's what I need to do because sometimes I hear something differently than everybody else, and it doesn't mean it's right, but I sometimes I just do.
You want to do your part, so to speak. Now, didn't you guys have George Lynch appear on one of the songs?
We did. George Lynch played on the title track, "Don't Look Back."
And what was that like? How did you guys get him? Just a matter of asking.
No, we actually we have a good friend, 2 good friends. I don't know if you've heard of Neely and Chris Aiken, of who they are, of the Classic Metal Show.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, and by the way, those 2 guys were so instrumental in getting Red Rain to where they are today too. But they're really good friends with the Docking Camp.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah.
So over COVID, we were right before COVID started. We had just gotten off tour with Tesla, and we had plans to come home, and we had shows, and then of course everything shut down, and then the whole story.
Sure.
But then there was a little bit of turmoil, sort of in our little group. Nothing bad, but like what are we going to do? How long is this going to last? So on. So when we knew we had material, but you want to make a splash, right? Like, okay, it's been a year. How are we going to bring our name back out? And so I started thinking to myself, okay, we got to get a guest on this album. Anyway, and I could go on with the story, but anyway, we pinpointed George Lynch, and I happened to call Neely, and it's like, I know you know him, I hate, because Neely and I've been friends for so long. I was like, I don't want you to think I'm using you for this. And he's like, we'll get it done. And he got it done for us. So he called George and he mapped it out for us, and turned out any
question for you. Did you guys actually get to meet George? Was he in the studio with you, or did he record his part and send it?
He recorded his part. But there is a funny story about that. There was a couple emails between our team and George, and I happened to be copied on them. And George was supposed to record this date. Wrote an email, said, I can't record that date now. I got to record today. Can somebody get in touch with me? So I called David. David's like, didn't answer. I called a couple other people on the team. They didn't answer. So I was like, okay, and he's like writing, going, can somebody write me back? So I said, well, what's your number? Because he said, call me. So I had to call George Lynch. So I was actually on the phone with him.
Life of a rock star, huh?
I mean, but again, and so we got the ball rolling there. But again, it's one of those moments in your life. You're like looking at your phone, saying, this is unbelievable.
I can't believe this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't believe I'm talking to him. So
yeah. And so
great, very nice man, and very, very receptive. We didn't really give him ideas. He basically said, what is it you're looking for? And we basically said, you're George, be George.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so I was curious, since him doing his part, have you ever had the chance to meet him or have him come and play a guest spot live with you guys? Or
What's funny is years ago, when Lynch Mob first came out, I wasn't in a band at that point, but they came to Richmond, and a friend of the promoter was also a friend of mine. Okay. And they got me to drive them around. So I met George then.
Oh, wow.
But I have not seen George in person since.
Funny how things circle back. I mean, that you have that story to tell, and years later he's playing on a song with you.
Amazing, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, Sammy, I wanted to ask you now. Another thing I noticed, unless you're Alex Van Halen or Tommy Lee, you don't see drummers do a ton of interviews. You seem to be the spokesperson for a band. Is that kind of your position? Does that fall on you because you just have a great kind of PR way about yourself?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. So one of it, I think one of it is I'm myself and Bubba were the founding members. It was our idea to kick it off. Also, I do all really the business work for the band. So that's my role in the band. Everybody's got a role in the band.
Sure.
So I'm the liaison between all of our sort of team to the band. And so I was picked to do these, but
I did see the drummer get a little more involved, and people coming out from behind the drums and speaking and telling their story.
I had this idea. So Bubba and I were in a band before this. Bubba and I have known each other the longest. We've known each other since the 80s. And when we were, the last band we were in didn't end very well. I mean, we were still friends, but with some of the other guys, but it was, fun band. And so I just had this idea. The idea for me for Red Rain was this. And I say it in every interview. We're gonna do this. Let me go back for a second. We had in that other band, we had one song we didn't finish, right? That Bubba had written. That song was split up, since we got into Red Rain, was split up into the title track Red Rain and to the other song Not That Way. That's what that song was. But so I was talking to Bubba and I was like, look, we can do this. I mean, the initial thing was Bubba, because Bubba was a lead guitar player in bands before. So Bubba can play guitar, play lead, sing, and he can hack away at the bass. So we were just going to put out like 3 songs on our own and just throw it out there. Yeah. But then it just started to trickle more and more. We brought Larry in, and then we had a 3-piece, and it trickled and trickled, and then we were lucky enough to get Stevie and it up. But really, that's how the band started. But my vision was we're gonna look like a band, we're gonna sound like a band, we're gonna act like a band, and the big rule is no cover tunes.
Right? Yeah.
All original.
Red Rain. I mean, I think it seems to be working for you. I mean, the trajectory is up. Now, let me ask you, with the new EP. Any chance, I assume next going to be a full-length album. Do you think that'll come later in the year, probably next year?
I don't know yet. So when we were, we just, I hope I don't look too rough, but because we flew back late last night from California. So I apologize if I don't look great, but the focus was, the last 4 months have been focused on this California trip.
Wow. Okay.
We mapped out everything. We mapped out what we were doing at the Metal Hall of Fame. We were mapping out a lot of that. The Metal Legions we were mapping out. We had to map out the set. We had to make sure we had the right set. We were mapping out travel plans. I mean, again, it takes longer than you think it does.
It's a
right?
Major event. I mean, I know one guy that puts on, Keith St. John, the singer from Montrose. He puts on this Ronnie Montrose tribute every year at NAMM, and he tells me, like, I got to get started to put on the event for next year, like a year ahead of time.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at the Metal Hall of Fame. I was standing like 2 people away from him too.
Yeah.
I saw him, but that's the thing. You got to push this boulder up the mountain, right? So we just put all of our effort in that. And so actually, I got that question a lot, like what's next? So we, obviously there is material that is being written, but will we pull out, in today's world, would we put out another full length album? I don't know. I don't know what it looks like yet. I'm pretty sure we'll at least put a single out, if not a couple songs. But and then so we're just, we literally flew back last night. So usually what we do is when we come off a tour or we play a show, we usually take 2 weeks off. Nobody talks to each other, right? Because everybody in this band has a separate life, and so and you don't smother each other. And I think that's really what keeps it fresh too, to be honest.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so we talked about new music, and then I have been talking to some of the management and everything else about some possible shows. But like for the next week, it's going to be.
Well, it must be great to come out from Virginia and to see what California is like, and what that was like, even for a couple of days and be part of it.
I mean, I tell you, we literally were at the hotel, because we didn't rent a car. We had a car pick us up, and it was like we were just sitting there talking. We were like, we like the three of us just looked at each other, and all of a sudden we go, "We're in California."
Yeah.
But we're not here to visit. We're here to play a show. Like that's it. It just. I don't know.
Like you said, you're on the step ladder on the way up. On the next ring of the ladder. Sammy, it's great talking to you as always. Just to let you know, I'll have an interview up later tonight. It'll be going up. So once I get it up, I will send you the link. Feel free to share it. And my
Please
friend,
I will. Yeah.
Anytime Red Rain has anything to promote, you're welcome on my show. Okay.
I appreciate it, Jason. It's good to see you again, and I follow you as well, and I see the great things you're doing. But
I do my own thing.
Is this our third time, or is this our second time?
I lost track. I think it's like third or fourth. That's why I was asking what's next. Seems like you guys always got something new.
Well, it's great to see you again. So, is everything going well with you?
Yeah, I'm doing my own thing now, so I'm loving that. I was with the other site for like 17 years, but it got to a point where it wasn't working out. So just split ways peacefully and do my own thing.
Well, that's great. And I appreciate you having me on. I always do. I always appreciate people. In your situation where you're always trying to help bands, and that goes a long way. And we thank you so much. So,
well, thanks, Sammy. You take care, my friend. Bye bye.
All right, you two, take care.
Bye bye.